debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
And welcome to On the Money. I'm Liam Halligan and we are in Northern Ireland. We're in Coleraine on the beautiful banks of the Bann in the Coleraine campus of Ulster University. It's GB News Northern Ireland Week. We've been in Belfast, we've been in Enniskillen, and now we're up here on the North Antrim coast. So stay with us in the next hour. We'll be talking to business leaders, we'll be talking to manufacturers, we'll be talking to people about the tourism industry and that protocol. This is On the Money from Coleraine, but first, it's the GB News headlines with Rosie Wright.
Good afternoon, I'm Rosie Wright. This is your news at 1 o'clock. A border force boat with 10 migrants on board and a lifeboat carrying up to 50 migrants arrived in Dover this morning. It comes after a boat capsized yesterday and at least 27 people died trying to make the crossing. The Prime Minister is calling for a joint police patrol in the Channel with France to try to stop migrant crossings. French President Emmanuel Macron said that stronger European cooperation was needed between European countries to tackle human traffickers. Chief Executive of Refugee Action, Tim Hilton, says the government's anti-refugee bill needs to be scrapped.
Current bill that's going through Parliament needs to be ripped up. Yesterday's incident is an absolute watershed moment. This government claims that this bill responds to the problem that's out there at the moment, but in fact all it does is whip up hostility against refugees themselves. It solves none of the problems. It creates the bonanza for people smugglers themselves, and it doesn't create any of the safe routes that people need.
Energy supplier Bulb is going to be given nearly £1.7 billion in government support after the company collapsed earlier this week. The public financing will ensure its 1.6 million customers continue to receive that energy. The company was put into a special administration on Wednesday, meaning it can continue to operate until a potential buyer can be found or until its customers leave. A 34-year-old man has appeared in court today in connection with the death of a couple in Somerset. Colin Reeves has been charged with the murders of Jennifer and Stephen Chappell. The couple were killed at home as their children slept upstairs on Sunday. A second man, aged 67, was arrested on suspicion of 2 murders and was released under investigation on Tuesday. More than 5,500 alerts of sewage being discharged into coastal waters were issued by water companies last year. A new report has published these findings. Well, the campaign group Surfers Against Sewage found that 1 in 6 days out of the official bathing season were unswimmable last year due to pollution near beaches. It marks an 87% increase on last year's figure. Most men don't know any symptoms of prostate cancer, according to a new poll. A survey by YouGov found that 68% of men questioned didn't know a single symptom. It's the most common cancer among men, and symptoms include the need to urinate more frequently. Professor Carol Sikora told GB News it's important that men face up to potential symptoms rather than ignoring it.
There are nearly 50,000 new cases every year in Britain alone. So it is a very common disease. And as everybody's living longer now, the average age of dying is over 80 now for men, then it's really important, if you want to have that longevity, to do something about any symptoms that arise rather than just hide away and say they don't exist.
The government is expected to give the green light on proposals for English football's independent regulator. It was the key recommendation of the fan-led review that was commissioned in April after the European Super League row. 6 English Premier League clubs formed part of the breakaway before pulling out of the plans after significant backlash. The Sports Minister, Nigel Huddleston, has promised to move as quickly as possible to bring forward any legislation needed. Now, first-time buyers face having to pay, on average, 5.5 times their typical annual salary to get onto the property ladder. A nationwide study has found it breaks the previous record in 2007, and it's significantly higher now than the historical average of a house being 3.8 times your annual salary. Figures confirm that London continues to have the highest price-to-earnings ratio. Adverts for cosmetic procedures to change a person's physical appearance, they're going to be banned for under-18s from May of next year. Companies will no longer be able to advertise procedures like breast augmentation and nose reshaping during television programmes that are likely to appeal to under-18s. The Committee of Advertising Practice says young people are vulnerable to body image pressures and that negative perceptions could have an impact on their mental health. And a Roman mosaic has been found in a farmer's field in Rutland. The artwork depicts the famous Battle of the Trojan War. It dates back to the 3rd or 4th century AD. It's one of only a handful of mosaics across Europe, and due to its rarity, it's now going to receive special protection. You are right up to date here on GB News. I'll bring you the latest headlines in half an hour, but back to now Northern Ireland and Liam for On the Money.
And this is On the Money, your daily dose of economics, business and consumer news. And it's GB News Northern Ireland Week. And today we're broadcasting from Coleraine on the north coast in County Antrim, a beautiful part of Northern Ireland and of the United Kingdom. This week's about peace, prosperity and the protocol. That's what we're discussing. And today in particular, we're talking to local industry leaders. We're talking to people involved in tourism. This is, of course, a big part of the local economy. We'll be meeting manufacturers and business owners, and we'll be delving down into that protocol, examining what it means for local people and local commerce. It's On the Money, and that means money talks. It's no different just because we're here, and we'll be meeting a local business owner, somebody who runs the Specialist Joinery Group, a big local manufacturer, for an in-depth discussion. And also, I want to hear from you, particularly if you're from Northern Ireland. What do you think of our coverage and how we cover your part of the UK? Email us, gbviews@gbnews.uk, or tweet us @GBNews. Stay with us. This is GB News. I'm Liam Halligan, and you're On the Money. This is GB News Northern Ireland Week, as I said. I've been spending the whole week here, as has our esteemed political editor, Darren McCaffrey himself, born and raised a proud man from Fermanagh, Enniskillen, since you ask. And of course, Dougie Beattie, the GB News Northern Ireland correspondent, is based here full-time. He's from Ballygowan in County Down. This week, we've had a bit of a road trip. We started out in the capital city, Belfast. We then went to Enniskillen, bit of a homecoming for Darren, and now we're in Coleraine. You can catch up with all our GB News Northern Ireland coverage from this week on the GB News app or on our YouTube channel. It continues today. Darren will be with you from 3 to 4 p.m, broadcasting from here in Coleraine, and tomorrow as well. Now, the Northern Ireland economy, traditionally it's been about manufacturing, shipbuilding, of course, back in the day, agriculture and food processing. But what's really struck me in the recent days when I've been here is the extent to which the economy has now shifted to technology, financial services, to high value added. The people of Northern Ireland, they're resilient, they're determined, and of course they're extremely warm, well known for their hospitality. They're also known for their skills, and we are here in the Coleraine campus of Ulster University. This is on the North Antrim coast. The world-famous Giant's Causeway, an astonishing tourist attraction, is just up the coast. This whole part of Northern Ireland is called Causeway Country. And here on the Coleraine campus of Ulster University, they specialise in life and health sciences, hospitality, tourism, all subjects that we will be discussing today. So stay with us. This is GB News, live from Coleraine in Northern Ireland. You're on the money. The really important thing while we've been here in Northern Ireland, and I know Darren feels the same way, is to talk to local people and make sure that they feel connected with the UK and with our programme and our coverage. And it's no different today, so I'm delighted to be joined for our opening discussion by two local people. We've got David Boyd. You are the President, David, of the Causeway Chamber of Commerce. And we've got Emily McCorkle, the owner of Low and Slow Sauces, barbecue sauce specialist, and you're from just up the road in Derry, Londonderry, about 30 miles away from Coleraine, isn't it? Thank you so much, both of you, for coming here to this wonderful Ulster University campus, literally by the banks of the River Bann. David, tell us how you think the Northern Ireland economy is getting on post-Brexit, post the Troubles, but still with the protocol.
Well, really, post the Troubles is probably not something that has been hot on the agenda of the conversations of our members of the Causeway Chamber of Commerce. The conversations are more focused at the moment, particularly around Brexit and COVID recovery. The economic prospects for our members are uppermost in their mind, and going forward, tourism, hospitality, I suppose, are the number one strengths for our area, with so many people holidaying at home and staying at home, and we have to really focus on making sure that we capitalise and maximise on the strengths of hospitality and tourism in our area.
The pandemic's really hit this part of the country in terms of the hospitality and tourism, hasn't it?
Completely, yes. I mean, really, going back a year, I suppose hospitality was on its knees, and really now we're trying to focus on recovery. And it's been a busy season. We just have to make sure that we continue in that vein. And
we'll be covering that. Doogie Beattie's got a special report on tourism later in the show. Emily, you are in the long tradition of Northern Ireland, the whole of the island of Ireland. You founded your own small business, what so many people do from this part of the world. Tell us how you started your business and how you've combined it with being a working mum.
Well, working mum is difficult, yeah. I mean, the kids feel like they want to have a part in the business and take over recipes and things like that, but it's fantastic. We started our business as kind of a response to my husband having a health crisis. So we kind of saw this as a shovel to dig a way out and find a future. Food was always something that we were interested in. We love cooking at home. I grew up in a very creative family cooking-wise, and so we started the business as a conduit really to finally kind of gain freedom again and try to find a way forward. But I think also we saw that we got into this situation because we were overstressed and undernourished, and we realized so many other people were in the same boat, and we figured food is a way to bring people together. So if it works for us and our family, maybe we can make a difference doing that in the city.
David, Northern Ireland's been very good at attracting inward investment over the years. I mean, when I was researching before we did this trip, I was pleasantly surprised to see that, yes, Scotland gets a lot of foreign direct investment, we all know that, but per head, Northern Ireland actually pips Scotland at the post in terms of the amount of foreign direct investment it gets. You talk to many, many businesses in this region, along this causeway coast, if you like, named after the Giant's Causeway, which I mentioned. How can you get more inward investment into Northern Ireland?
Well, we have so many tools at our disposal, Liam. We have to really maximise our work that we do with local council, with politicians locally, and especially here where it's sitting today in the university, to maximise our contacts with them. Very often we're understated, we do hide our light under a bushel sometimes. We can be probably rightly accused of that, and we've got to shout from the rooftops about all the success stories that we have. I mean, we've got so many success stories, just as you say, that have been attracted here and are doing business most successfully and exporting to all parts of the world.
How do you feel as a young mum, I can ask Emily? I mean, lots of people from this part of the world, you know, people come from America to here, from Canada to here, Ireland, north and south, as we all know that, don't we? What is it that made you want to stay here, not just put your roots down here and build a family here, but also build a business? You must have a lot of hope in the future of this part of the United Kingdom.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. I mean, I can't talk about the Coleraine Causeway Coast Council area, but I know in Derry Strabane Council area, it's one of the most hospitable places that I've ever experienced to start a business. There's so much support. There's really that community of, if we work together, we can achieve more, we can do more, and it's just been fantastic. I mean, I think it's probably harder to fail than it is to start a business because there's so much support out there.
You, of course, got lots of
fantastic.
contacts in the States, lots of connections to the States.
Yeah.
People talk about the US as being a very fertile business environment. You feel the same thing here?
Yeah.
You know, let's be completely clear and fair. With all due respect, Derry, Londonderry, it's not Belfast. It's on the other side of the country. It's in a quieter part of the country. The logistics, the connections are much less. The airport's much smaller. But you still feel it's a really good place to run a business?
Yes, absolutely is. It absolutely is. I think there's a lot of, it's in a really strategic place right now at the moment because there's been a lot of deprivation for so long, but that means there's room for regeneration, and that's definitely what's happening. The council will have their heads screwed on straight. They've got a very strategic plan of how to go about doing this, and they're making it happen, which is great, despite all the challenges of COVID and Brexit and things like that. So.
David, both Darren McCaffrey, our political editor, and I, and Doogie, of course, all the time, we talk to business leaders, we talk to political leaders, leaders of the economy about the protocol. Do your members really want the protocol to be solved now? Do you want it to end? I must say, I've met quite a few business leaders, we're going to hear from one later, who actually sees quite a lot of opportunity if Northern Ireland stays in the European Union single market for goods, but is still obviously outside the European Union in general, having been part of Brexit.
Ultimately, our members believe that Northern Ireland will be in a much better place if we can have a foot in each camp, so to speak, a foot in the European market, a foot in the UK market, and current talk around the pharmaceuticals and less customs checks and all the rest of it are good. I mean, we'll be in a much better place if we can manage that, and I mean, I know from personal experience that and the motor trade which I'm involved in, that the amount of extra bureaucracy that all this has caused untold problems. There's no getting away from that. But if we can solve those in the short to medium term and make sure that we have got a foot in both camps, then I think we're really well placed to do well.
That's so interesting. You're saying, I mean, you know, you speak for many businesses, not all businesses, but many businesses in a part of the country that has got a lot of economic vim. Everyone in Northern Ireland knows that, what this coast is like. And you're saying that quite a lot of your members, they like the ambivalence. They like being in the European single market for goods, but having Brexited in this unique position, as long as we can make the protocol work more smoothly to iron out some of the paperwork.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if we can have less checks, if we can have less bureaucracy, then I believe we can make it work and make it work for the future and the betterment of all the people of Northern Ireland.
There's a very vibrant culinary scene here in Northern Ireland, as there is across the whole of the island of Ireland. It's not bacon and cabbage anymore, like it used to be. We interviewed Glenn Wheeler down there in Enniskillen, a very well-known local young chef. What's your vision for your business?
I mean, for us, I said it before, we want to bring people together over food. We think that food heals society. So one of the things that we're looking to do is to reach into doing apprenticeships with schools and entrepreneur programs and things like that, and to figure out how do we bolster the hospitality industry that's on its knees already. How can we help people go from thinking hospitality is just a job to make ends meet while you're in college or university, to figure out how do we make this a career that you can actually have a life where you can thrive.
Well, Emily McCorkill, founder, boss, shareholder of Low and Slow Foods, and of course David Boyd, president of the Causeway Chamber of Commerce. It's great to meet both of you. Thank you. All the very best.
Thank you for having us.
Now, as part of Northern Ireland Week, GB News has made a documentary. It's called Northern Ireland, The Problem with the Protocol, and it's by our colleague Paul Hawkins. We're going to be showing the whole of the documentary tomorrow in my show On the Money at 2:30, but we're showing excerpts during the time that we're broadcasting from Northern Ireland. And here's the latest excerpt from Paul Hawkins' documentary, and this deals with issues of Irish identity on the border and why some unionist people feel that the protocol is an affront to who they are.
Polling since the Brexit referendum has shown no consistent majority support for reunification. That the conversation about it is even happening, though, worries the unionists.
Hey Paul, good to meet you now.
Yeah, Fergie, is it? What's happening today, just in brief?
Today we have what's called loyal orders here, which are basically the orange, the black and the apprentice boys. Today is the black preceptories organisation, something like the Orange Order, and we're going to have a church service. Next Saturday is their big celebration, like their 12th of July.
July 12th is when unionists celebrate the victory of Protestant King William of Orange over Catholic King James II at the Battle of the Boyne in 1690. Bonfires and these marches are a display of their British identity.
We feel we have been completely cut off now from the rest of Britain due to the EU and the Irish government threatening that if there was a border on the island of Ireland, this would lead to violence. All of a sudden, the British government, the EU, the Irish government all say, well, which is the worst violence? This is the way we look at it. Is it going to come from loyalists? Which, of course, it probably won't. And will it come from Republicans? Yes, it probably will. So our viewpoint is we have been completely divorced from Britain through this protocol. So we class ourselves as someone who lives in Birmingham, Nottingham, Glasgow, Cardiff, wherever. We class ourselves the same as that, but now all of a sudden we're not.
What's fascinating is with every single bang of a drum, it's like they're saying, we are British, and they won't have that identity taken away from them.
Our view would be to completely scrap it. To completely scrap the protocol. The sad thing is, it only takes a few hotheads to bring the violence back.
I think the politicians in London listen enough to you.
They don't. I think the only thing politicians in London listen to is the threat of violence. To me, that is what they have listened to all along.
So is your prediction that if things stay as they are, by the end of the year there will be more violence?
My prediction is no. I hope there won't be.
I know what you hope, but what you think is going to happen.
I think things will stay quiet until something moves. And if it doesn't move quickly enough, then yes, there is that threat of violence. There is that threat. And people are very, very angry.
That was the latest excerpt from the GB News documentary on Northern Ireland, The Problem with the Protocol, by my colleague Paul Hawkins. We'll be showing the full 30-minute version of that documentary tomorrow in an extended 2-hour bumper edition of On the Money. That's from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. That Paul Hawkins film will be airing around 2:30 here on GB News. It's well worth watching, particularly if you're not from Northern Ireland, you're trying to understand Northern Ireland. We sent Paul to Northern Ireland specifically because he doesn't know the place, so he could be a fair, even-handed reporter and do his stuff. And I personally think he's done a very good job of encapsulating the issues and fairly representing the people and the politics of this part of the UK. After the break, there'll be a report from our Northern Ireland correspondent Doogie Beattie on tourism in this part of Northern Ireland and how the tourism industry and hospitality more generally has been coping with the COVID pandemic. Stay with us. You're on the money.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello. This morning, the Met Office have named Storm Arwen. It's arriving through Friday and lingering into the weekends. Warnings have been issued, including amber warnings across parts of the northeast of England and eastern Scotland. The storm system has really yet to form, but it is drifting southwards over the next 24 hours. And the worst effects will be on Friday afternoon as the isobars squeeze together. Very strong winds across northern Scotland initially, but strong winds developing almost everywhere by the end of Friday. Back to this afternoon, and well, for many it's a fine day out there, dry and sunny. There's a cold wind blowing, bringing a few showers across eastern England and a few for Pembrokeshire and Cornwall, and some wintry showers in northern Scotland. But otherwise, largely dry and bright, but it is cold. Temperatures 5 to 8 degrees. Add on that wind and it feels even colder. It's through this evening we'll start to see the effects of the storm system arriving. Initially a band of rain pushing in with some snow over the hills across Scotland for a time. That zone of wet weather will then sink southwards during the night and become more extensive on Friday. Ahead of it with clear skies there will be a frost across the southeast. But quickly it'll cloud over on Friday morning, making for a grey, cold, fairly damp day with outbreaks of rain for most places. But the rain turning increasingly to snow over the hills of Scotland. And then the winds really start to pick up on Friday afternoon across the far north with frequent sleet and snow showers, and the gusty winds strengthening further. Temperatures a touch higher tomorrow, but it's still going to feel cold, especially as that wind picks up late in the day. Potential for damaging gusts of wind across the north and east of Scotland, especially on Friday afternoon and evening. And then through the evening, the winds strengthen further over northeast England, but also across north and west Wales, Northern Ireland and the west coast of Scotland. So Storm Arwen on the way, widespread gusts, disruption is possible. Keep up to date with the forecast. The warnings are on the Met Office website.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Welcome back. This is On the Money with me, Liam Halligan. It's GB News Northern Ireland Week, and I'm broadcasting from the banks of the Bann in Coleraine on the beautiful North Antrim coast. This is the Coleraine campus of Ulster University, one of the UK's top universities, a very important part of the Northern Ireland economy, along with Queen's. These are two big institutions which have produced lots of very skilled people, lots of research that goes into driving forward the Northern Ireland economy. But a big part of the economy in this part of Northern Ireland in particular is also tourism and hospitality. It's a sector that's really had to struggle during the COVID pandemic, but it's a sector that employs lots of people. My colleague Dougie Beattie, the GB News Northern Ireland correspondent, went just a few miles down the road to Port Stewart to investigate how the tourism industry has been coping.
The North Antrim coast is a wild but beautiful coastline, and its economy is highly dependent on the hospitality sector.
It's been a remarkably challenging time for us in running our business. Ahead of the first lockdown, there was a period of enormous uncertainty. We really didn't know what the future held for us or for our staff or customers. The lockdown itself was a period where, again, we didn't know when we were going to come out of lockdown. We didn't know how to respond in terms of communicating with our staff and our customers. But when the lockdown was lifted in July 2020, then business responded very quickly and very strongly. and there were schemes such as Eat Out to Help Out, which brought business back to us very, very quickly. But unfortunately, in September 2020 and into October, we could see that infection rates were starting to rise again, and it looked very much like further restrictions were on the way, and that's what happened. And at that stage, we were closed then for 7.5 months, reopening in May of this year.
Although a holiday destination, it holds many events, and one in particular brings a welcome financial boost each year.
The Northwest 200 currently costs us roughly in the region of about £1 million to run, to promote the Sulph, which is a major, major task of trying to pull in that type of money at the end of the day. The Sheffield Hallam carried out an economic impact study back in 2018, and that study showed that there was 13 million into the local economy and to the NI economy. It showed that there were 69,000 bed nights in the North Coast and through Northern Ireland itself, and race day there was 84,000 spectators on the actual day of the event itself. Throughout the week they stated there was 174,000 people who came during the week. That could have been different people counted in maybe one or two occasions, but those are massive figures to the economy here in Northern Ireland. Unfortunately, as you know, the event was cancelled in March 20. We have had no Northwest 200 for 2 years, and that has been difficult and challenging over this last couple of years.
The fact that this area has been in the winter season for so long has been worrying for the financial storm that may come.
Northwest 200 in particular would be the main opening event for our season here in Portrush. And we would see enormous numbers of domestic and overseas visitors coming to spectate, watch the races, and enjoy everything Northern Ireland has to offer. But obviously for 2 years that hasn't happened, and not just with Northwest but with other events throughout the calendar. So on that basis our overseas visitors have been pretty much wiped out. And instead we've had to rely on the staycation market here within Northern Ireland and sometimes across the island of Ireland.
Business needs sureties, and the private sector is all about planning.
The people who set the rules, I know they do so with the very best of intentions, but sometimes I think the rules are set very late in the day, or at least they're made known to the people who are expected to enact those rules. And we are told very, very last minute as to what the rule changes are, and that creates pressures for us as hotel operators, but it also creates challenges for our staff and indeed for our customers, because customers sometimes don't know from one day to the next what the rules are, and that then creates a challenge and a barrier for our customers who are faced with uncertainty as to whether they can safely come out or what the rules are when they do come out.
We have support from Causeway Coast and Glensborough Council. We have some support from TNI as well, financial support, but we've had to work our way through that. It's just about, I suppose, keeping our head above water at the present time until we get going again in 2022.
Pandemics, Brexit and lockdown all cause waves for an area that depends on the summer season. But can they shelter from the uncertainty of a financial storm? Dougie Beattie, GB News, Portstewart.
Dougie Beattie there reporting from the beautiful resort of Portstewart. Well worth a visit, as is Portrush, another wonderful coastal town close to here. The world famous rock formation Giant's Causeway is also just up the road. We're broadcasting from Coleraine here in Northern Ireland in North Antrim. After the break, it's Money Talks, that part of the show when we have an in-depth discussion with a business leader. We'll be talking to Kieran O'Hagan, who employs about 150 people at the Specialist Joinery Group, a very important local company. He'll be joining us, so stay with us. All that's after the break and after the GB News headlines with Rosie Wright.
Thanks, Liam. Good afternoon. Let's get you up to date. The Home Secretary says there's no quick fix to the migrant crisis after 27 people died trying to cross the Channel yesterday. It's the worst incident of its kind in the Channel since the current migrant crisis began. Priti Patel said her department had tackled 17 trafficking gangs and had offered to work further with France. Measures include putting British police officers on patrol along the French beach.
I have literally, Madam Deputy Speaker, just spoken again with my French counterpart, Minister Darmanin, and I've once again reached out and made my offer very clear to France in terms of joint France and UK cooperation, joint patrols to prevent these dangerous journeys from taking place. I've offered to work with France to put more officers on the ground and do absolutely whatever is necessary to secure the area so that vulnerable people do not risk their lives by getting into unseaworthy boats.
We've got more on this across the day. Now, the government is going to give the energy supplier Bulb nearly £1.7 billion after the company collapsed earlier this week. The public financing will ensure its 1.6 million customers continue to receive energy. The company was put into special administration on Wednesday, meaning it can continue to operate until a potential buyer can be found or until its customers leave. A 34-year-old man has appeared in court in connection with the death of a couple in Somerset. Colin Reeves has been charged with the murders of Jennifer and Stephen Chappell. The couple were killed at home as their children slept upstairs on Sunday. A Roman mosaic has been found in a farmer's field in Rutland. The artwork depicts the famous battle of the Trojan War, and it dates back to the 3rd or 4th century AD. It's one of only a handful across Europe, and because it's so rare, it's now going to receive special protection. You are up to date. I'll have more on all of today's top stories at 2 o'clock.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Welcome back. You're on the money with me, Liam Halligan. We're on the banks of the River Bann in Coleraine, in Northern Ireland, in North Antrim. This is GB News Northern Ireland Week. I should say that if viewers do want to follow Priti Patel's statement in the House of Commons, the Home Secretary addressing MPs, they can find that on the GB News Facebook page. But for now, here on the main channel, we're staying with Northern Ireland Week. And because it's on the money, of course, it's Money Talks. Money Talks, of course, our daily in-depth interview with someone who really knows their stuff. Today we're talking to Kieran O'Hagan. Kieran O'Hagan is the CEO of the Specialist Joinery Group, a very important employer in these parts. It's a family-run business. It's been around for more than 30 years. It exports bespoke joinery, metalwork, woodwork, glasswork, all around the world. It's got a fabulous reputation. It employs 150 people directly and another 100 or so subcontractors. I was delighted to meet Kieran O'Hagan, and here is our discussion. Kieran, tell us a little bit about the history of this company. This is quite a big operation.
Thank you. It's a reasonable operation. History is my father started the business in 1988, which is almost 34 years ago, and it started from a seat, and it has grown into what we would like to describe as an oak tree, but it is on its way to being a mighty oak tree.
You're employing directly and indirectly here in Northern Ireland upwards of 250 people. That makes you a major employer. Tell us about the nature of what you do here at Specialist.
Well, I believe here at Specialist, we do a bespoke joinery manufacture was our initial business. We now do bespoke joinery, bespoke metal and bespoke glass manufacture. Because the industry has changed so much, where you have joinery is not just about timber today, it's about the incorporation of metal, glass, stones, corians, solid surfacing, fabric. It's just bringing it all together, and our overall ambition is to bring all of them things within the realms of Specialist Group.
I understand that when the business started out, your father and then yourself, you specialised in building Irish pubs that were sold around the world. So if there's an Irish pub in Dubai, an Irish pub in Moscow, an Irish pub in Kazakhstan, the likelihood is that Specialist Joinery Group put it together.
Yes, correct.
But you've now moved on from that.
We have moved on from that. It was a major market at one point in time, where an Irish pub manufactured in Ireland, designed in Ireland, manufactured in Ireland, and installed anywhere in the world. We've did projects, as you said, Moscow, Kazakhstan, Heineken headquarters in New York. That market died slightly. So we still do Irish pubs, but it's not something that we actively chase on a daily basis, but we do a lot of repeat business. In actual fact, yesterday I had a phone call from a customer in Republic of Ireland, where they were asking would we be interested in doing their hotel bar and lounge up that had been installed in 1993. So they're going to spend about a capex on it next year, and that's repeat business coming back.
That's amazing. So you fitted out a hotel bar.
Yep.
It's a very complicated, high-end, high-value-added activity back in 1993, and they're getting the same company back to do the refurb.
Yep.
That's pretty impressive.
That's pretty impressive. Same manager, same company.
You must have made a good impression.
I think we've made a decent impression now.
Tell us about the labour force here. We can see some of your workers doing their thing behind us. It's a very impressive factory floor. Where do you get most of your workforce from? Do you train people up from leaving school, leaving technical college? Are they mainly local people, or are they mainly people that have come to Northern Ireland?
In principle, they're mainly local people. I myself trained as an apprentice here, so there was a fairly good training system 25 years ago for people wanting to move into construction trades. That has gone by the wayside now. So we like to train our own people. So where you come in from school at 16 years of age, you come in from school after your A-levels at 18, or you come in from university, we like to train on the job our own people, and we like to bring people through the factory. Daddy's first apprentice and first employee is the projects director on our board today.
So the first apprentice your father took on back in the late 80s is now on the board of the company?
Yes.
And you yourself were an apprentice here, and now obviously you are the CEO of the company?
Yes.
I've been in Northern Ireland quite a few days now, and I've seen lots of signs, vacancies, we need people. There is a shortage of people here in Northern Ireland, isn't there? There is a skills shortage. How are you addressing that?
There's certainly a shortage of people, and there's certainly a skill shortage. And earlier on in the conversation, we were just talking about we used to have a good training system. Today, from our point of view, we built our own training academy, which is totally at our own costs. It's not government funded. It's a cost to the business in the short term. In the long term, it is the foundations for the future of Specialist Group. So we currently take on between 8 and 10 apprentices each year. We have our own academy, which is on a separate site. We have a tradesman that has over 50 years experience in bespoke joinery manufacture, and We have teamed up with Strabane Training Services, so they bring the educational side to it, we bring the practical skills to it, which was actually the bit that was missing. And we have about a 50% retention rate on our apprentices for one reason or another. And we believe that the young people that come through that academy, they're the people that will be sitting in this chair in the next 20 years.
That's a major commitment on the part of your business, Kieran. You are training your own apprentices from school. I bet competition to get on your training scheme is pretty fierce, given the success of the business.
It is, yes. It has a fair, decent uptake. So we would probably be looking at about 50 to 60 applicants each year with places of 8 to 10. Last year, with the pandemic, we took that opportunity and we brought in some apprentices right throughout the office structure. So in marketing, we have a marketing apprentice, we have a couple of quantity surveying apprentices that are doing their degrees alongside their work. So they're working 4 days a week and they're doing an off-site day at university, and we as a business are backing that. And there's a few others throughout the whole business.
How do you feel that nationally, across Northern Ireland, across the UK as a whole, there aren't the apprenticeship schemes around that there were? Individual companies like yours who have the ability to do so and the resources are building your own apprenticeship schemes, but surely there should be national apprenticeship schemes.
In my opinion, we lost that 20 years ago. The voice has not been shouted loud enough for national apprenticeship schemes. We as a country, I think, have moved away from manufacturing, moved away from training people. We all became very much a service industry. Manufacturing here at home is what needs to happen if you want to build a nation and something strong that isn't depending on other countries deciding that they will shut you off today. And if the last 18 months have taught us anything, it should be that we need to put infrastructure in now in order to be fit for the next 10 years. And it's not a short-term plan, it's going to take a long-term plan. So national apprenticeships, I would be all on for. Training our own people, all on for. Trades, at one point, were taken as almost, it was a second-class citizen's job. Well, I'm a second-class citizen now. That's how I see it. Trades are the foundation. This country, in my opinion, is built on agriculture and manufacturing industry, and we've kind of forgot about them people.
You talk about the last 18 months, Kieran. How has the pandemic been for your company? Some manufacturers have done quite well, but you're a labour-intensive business. You're very dependent on resources coming to you, your raw materials, your wood, your metals, your glass. What happened to Specialist Joinery Group during the pandemic, and how have you fared as we're coming out of the pandemic?
I would say it has been the most trying and challenging 18 months, both personally and business-wise, for each and every individual that works at Specialist Group. We had a lot of different interruptions with small shutdowns at the very start, but because we were seen as a business that was needed to keep moving, construction kept moving, we were fortunate that we could continue throughout the pandemic. This has been the most difficult part of the pandemic.
Your order book must have been hammered, because a lot of businesses going into the pandemic, they're going to cancel their refurbishments, aren't they? They're going to cancel their improvements. Did you see orders fall?
We saw orders postponed, but we didn't see orders fall off the book. And that was difficult. But I have a fantastic team of people here that have done nothing but strive to be ahead of the pandemic at all times. As a business, before shutdowns or social distancing measures were ever in place, this business had already all that stuff in place a month before the government, where people were getting supplied multivitamins, we were social distancing, we have different lunch times, we were staying within zones. We had that done 1 month ahead of any government legislation coming out last year. So we like to try to keep ahead of the curve, but we found it very difficult to manage the energy cost raises that have been thrown at us, the materials cost raises that have been thrown at us, the labour shortages that have been thrown at us. That's the piece, and that really only hit hard in April 2021. So we've come through a difficult 6 months, and we're heading into some new work, some new prospects. We have a reasonably strong order book for 2022. We have a good vision on 2023, and believe it or not, I believe this business will grow in this current financial year, which finishes for us in April 2022.
Tell us about supply chain inflation, Kieran. Tell us about the cost of the wood, the glass, the metal that you have to buy to build the bespoke products that your specialist clients want.
It's just been exceptionally difficult. MDF, for example, which will be our core material here in the joinery
Which
factory,
is like a processed wood compound.
Processed board.
Yeah.
MDF, we would use 3,000 sheets a month on average. There was one point we were in a quota for 750. We were picking it up all around the UK and Europe, anywhere we could get it.
So it was rationed effectively?
Effectively rationed. At that point, we were paying up on 200% more on occasions than when we should. The true price of the price raises on MDF are between 70 and 90%, but you had people jumping on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
And thankfully that has started to level out a little. So I think it's fair to say MDF's trading about 90% more expensive than it would have been this time last year.
So it's almost double what it was this time
double.
last year.
Yeah.
And it's not going to go back to what it was, is it?
I can't see it. I can't see it. Now, there's other materials, some haven't moved dramatically. And some have consistently, like aluminium, have consistently moved on a every 2 or 3 months, another 7%, another 10%. So I'd say aluminium today is probably trading at 70, 80% more expensive than it was a year ago. We use a lot of that in the metal department.
And of course, those with the best will in the world, those price rises are going to get passed on to clients, aren't they? Because you can't operate at a loss. You'd have to lay people off.
Well, that's the difficulty we found. Our business is built on fixed price lump sum contracts. So when I say the last 6 months have been difficult from a financial point of view, because projects were estimated and priced and entered into contract towards the end of 2020, and then you have all this stuff to suffer. So we've suffered through that now for the last 6 months. But we're very fortunate that we've got our customer base is repeat business. So albeit our customer is also facing the same challenges, we are all entering into new works, and there's a general understanding that we've all suffered, so we must be able to try to pass it on to the end user in the coming months and years ahead. But I think there's a good understanding, and no one got into any real contractual business over the last 6 months in our industry.
Tell us how the protocol's working for you and the business leaders in this region that you know. You're obviously importing some components. Some of your wood you source here in the north of Ireland, some of the wood you source from the island of Ireland as a whole, some from the UK, some from elsewhere. Obviously, the protocol makes it difficult to get goods from GB, if you like, the mainland, to Northern Ireland, but it doesn't really impact so far you exporting goods from here in Northern Ireland back to GB. So how's the protocol working?
So far, so good. We don't have a major problem getting 25% of our goods come in directly from GB. Yes, there's a bit more paperwork, there's a little bit more legislation around it, but it's not causing weeks and weeks of delays. So we're not experiencing that. Potentially, if we asked our purchasing department, they could look at 2 items that have caused a difficulty over the last 6 months. If we're importing in from the island of Ireland, we don't have any issue whatsoever. So I feel that the whole thing's working reasonably well here in Northern Ireland. The one thing it is doing is it's the potential of the labour shortages. So that is probably European labour coming here to Northern Ireland, whether it's in the food industry or the hotel and leisure industry, or it's skills, an extra boost to the construction industry. There's a shortage of that, so it is having an effect on that.
And that bids up the price of labour generally across the piece,
and
including here?
Including here, very much so. There's 30,000 less people within the industry that have left Northern Ireland, basically went home and decided to stay at home.
But a business leader's higher wage bill is someone else's better standard of living, you hope?
You hope. You hope. You hope.
Now, you've lived in Northern Ireland all your life. Your family's been here for several generations, Kieran. You're obviously a very capable guy. You could do what you want in life. You obviously believe very strongly in Northern Ireland, in the future of this country and its future prosperity. We've come a long way, haven't we, since the 70s, 80s and 90s?
Dramatic difference. Dramatic difference. I'm a homebird, and this is my home, and this is where my roots are. This is where my family is. This is where the family of specialist group is, and I have absolutely no aspirations to move anywhere else in the world. I'm not saying that sometime we won't be manufacturing something somewhere else in the world, but here is what we need to look after. And I think the prospects for Northern Ireland are phenomenal. If we could just clear the little bits of political fog out of the way and get on with focusing on our economy and on our people and on the next generation. Because in every good team, you've got to start down at the ground level with the children from 4 years of age upwards. And I think some of the best manufacturing companies exist here in Northern Ireland.
What is the basis of Northern Ireland's future prosperity, in your view, that's led you to live your life here, personally, business-wise, to stay in Northern Ireland, to carry on building this company?
Well, we live with fantastic people. We have crossed a lot of water has went under the bridge. That water is starting to flow a lot clearer now, and people are really coming together. There's an awful lot of skills in Northern Ireland, and there's a hunger. There's a hunger to build business. There's people on that shop floor today that will be working for themselves in the next 10 years because there's just a wee hunger. Everyone wants to own their own house. They want to work for themselves. They want to live in the countryside. There's just a natural hunger.
What's the one thing that the government could do to make your life better in terms of employing more people, building this business, adding to the future prosperity of Northern Ireland and the UK more generally?
I think they should talk to their people and support their people. Potentially, training schools would be an advantage. Training the young and developing the young, and not pushing everyone towards third-level education, where you can have third-level education. It's not a joiner anymore. We're wood engineers, we're metal engineers, we're glass engineers. Everything we do is bespoke, it's new. We use technology, we use robotics. It's long gone are the days of just a saw and a hammer and a nail being a joiner.
Kieran O'Hagan, thanks a lot. Great to see you here on GB News.
Thank you very much.
Kieran O'Hagan there, the CEO of the Specialist Joinery Group. Thanks to Kieran for hosting me and the GB News team earlier this morning. You can catch up with more of my in-depth Money Talks interviews via the GB News YouTube channel, the GB News app, or my Money Talks podcast. It's been a fabulous week here in Northern Ireland. I'll be back in the studio in London tomorrow, but Northern Ireland Week goes on. We've got more interviews that we've recorded from our days here in Northern Ireland. We'll be showing tomorrow. We'll also be showing Paul Hawkins' full-length 30-minute documentary, Northern Ireland, The Problem with the Protocol. That will be in a 2-hour Money Talks. That will be at 2:30, that documentary. Darren McCaffrey, GB News political editor, will be broadcasting from this very seat at 3 p.m. with the briefing from me. Thanks to Ulster University here in Coleraine for hosting us, and thanks to you for watching. This is GB News. I'm Liam Halligan, and from Coleraine, that was On the Money.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello. This morning, the Met Office have named Storm Arwen. It's arriving through Friday and lingering into the weekends. Warnings have been issued, including amber warnings across parts of the northeast of England and eastern Scotland. The storm system has really yet to form, but it is drifting southwards over the next 24 hours. And the worst effects will be on Friday afternoon as the isobars squeeze together. Very strong winds across northern Scotland initially, but strong winds developing almost everywhere by the end of Friday. Back to this afternoon, and well, for many it's a fine day out there, dry and sunny. There's a cold wind blowing, bringing a few showers across eastern England and a few for Pembrokeshire and Cornwall, and some wintry showers in northern Scotland. But otherwise, largely dry and bright, but it is cold. Temperatures 5 to 8 degrees. Add on that wind and it feels even colder. It's through this evening we'll start to see the effects of the storm system arriving. Initially a band of rain pushing in with some snow over the hills across Scotland for a time. That zone of wet weather will then sink southwards during the night and become more extensive on Friday. Ahead of it, with clear skies, there will be a frost across the southeast, but quickly it'll cloud over on Friday morning, making for a grey, cold, fairly damp day with outbreaks of rain for most places, but the rain turning increasingly to snow over the hills of Scotland. And then the winds really start to pick up on Friday afternoon